When this stuff happens to the homeless, you don't care. I was just listening to an interview with a guy who was in an ICE facility, and it occurs to me that people in ICE facilities are treated better than American citizens in actual jails. The guy was talking about how they had a psychiatric nurse come and see him once a day. Could you imagine that? That's not saying that ICE facilities are okay. Matter of fact, it's saying that the American legal system, we cannot call it a justice system. It is not a justice system. When right or wrong depends on the size of your wallet, it is not justice. When we're spending between $100,000 and $300,000 a year to house homeless people and disabled people in jails and or prisons, we're doing something wrong. That's an awful lot of money. I make less than $11,000 a year with my disability money. They spent well over 10 times that amount to keep me in jail here until I'm up for 15 months on false charges. Prior to that, they held me for 14 days, well, longer than that, actually, without an attorney, without any sort of representation. They did this to me because I called 911 about actual abuse. I've shown time and time again how homeless people are treated when we try to turn in abuse. We're treated worse than animals. You guys want to complain about the Trump administration? No, every administration turns a blind eye to how the homeless people are treated. We get a token mention once in a great while, but that's it. The most vulnerable people in our society are the homeless. And we've got a bunch of other special interest groups who want to say, oh no, let's not look at the homeless. No, we're more victimized. We're more marginalized. We even got people paying for advertisements on TV and on the internet about the crimes being committed against Jews in the United States, the crimes being committed against Asians in the United States. With all due respect, I've been victimized by Jews on the streets and Asians on the streets. See, when you've decided that it's okay to look down on an entire group of people, we're not talking about an occupation here, like being a police officer or a soldier or a fireman. That's an occupation. When I see somebody in an ambulance, I think to myself, I hope they know what they're doing. When I see somebody in an ambulance or a fireman, usually I think to myself, hey, those people help people for a living. They save lives for a living. I see a police officer and I see just the opposite. These things that you say, oh, it is so wrong that they're being done to foreign nationals in the United States, but they're being done to American nationals every single day just for being broke. Most of us who are homeless were victimized into homelessness, and then you victimize us for being homeless. You tell us it's our fault that we chose it. You got two choices in those situations: stay with your abuser or leave your abuser. If you stay with your abuser and they abuse you even more, you're told that it's your fault for staying there. You chose this. If you choose to get away from your abuser, well, now you're homeless. And again, it's your fault because you chose this. You get to see the Trump administration. They blame the victims. These are bullies and armed thugs. I'm not allowed justice. My predators can do whatever they want to me whenever they want. I have been to prison, but I'm not a convicted felon. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. So what am I supposed to do in this situation? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to laugh, right? Isn't that the response we get to see from all these blonde girls that Donald Trump wants to put into different positions throughout the White House and throughout his cabinet? It's smart. You're more likely to believe a pretty face. It's also sad. This victim blaming needs to stop. We've got situations where these officers want to claim that they're protecting a federal building. No, they're not. The building is not at risk. Those people aren't trying to light the building on fire. They know that there's human beings in there. The terrorists are the ones with the guns, pointing them at innocent civilians, people who are protecting their families, people who are protecting their neighborhoods, protecting them from armed gunmen. When it comes to ICE, oh, cool name, back in the 90s, not today. Yeah, you don't sound cutting edge. And these government officials, you get to see them smiling so often while they're playing word games, sidestepping it. And of course, yelling at the victims, name-calling, claiming that the horrible things that they're saying are just jokes. Not okay. We're sent to services that don't help us. They don't help us. Housing first. But that's not what happened in my situation, is it? There was no housing. And when you are abused, it needs to be turned in right away. You shouldn't have to wait 6 months or 6 years, however long it takes to get into housing, before you're allowed to turn in a fucking crime. Jesus goddamn Christ, hell no. That is not okay. I'm filling out more housing paperwork. The people that are supposed to help put a stop to this, they just want to make a profit by having me come back every week over and over and over and over again, and nothing ever gets accomplished. They keep losing the housing paperwork. So I offered to fill it out again. Miss Shelley wouldn't let me fill it out again. She wouldn't get them. She kept saying that she was going to talk to Russell and she was going to check the emails, and she just never did. She also never got me the paperwork to fill out, so I mean, why was she complaining at me? are bitching at me every fucking meeting about this housing stuff. I'm doing the housing stuff. You tell me to do something with the housing, I do something with the housing. You tell me to fill out paperwork, I'll fill out the paperwork. You tell me to call places, I'll call these places. It's not getting me into housing. Why does CARE have to be involved in that at all? Obviously, they're not going to do anything beyond me filling out the paperwork, and then I guess they turn it into these places. Okay. Well, we're not getting word back from any of them. The phone number that I had before was Russell's phone number. So if any of these places needed to call them, they were going to call Russell. Same thing with my disability stuff. That, well, obviously I don't have somebody to help me with this. And they keep pretending just because I'm intelligent that it means I have money and resources to do all of the many things that I'm ordered to run around and do. And then, of course, there's people like Miss Shelley who did more to help my predators than she ever did to help me. She just wasted time. So I'm filling out the housing paperwork for TFCC for the 4th time, I think. 5th time, maybe. I don't know. I've filled them out quite a bit. And they don't have record of any of that in the file that they gave me, or the file that they have, which has a lot of stuff that isn't in the file they gave me. So these places take their dear sweet time. And in that time, you were robbed of everything that you have repeatedly. And you were forced to try to depend on people who are just going to rip you off. You're told that it's your fault, your fault, your fault. No, screw you. Enough of that. Enough victim blaming. My side needs to be heard. My evidence needs to be looked at by the courts instead of them just using the mentally ill term to try to discredit their victims and prevent their victims from being allowed to show evidence in court. Then they give us public pretenders and tell us that we had adequate whatever when we didn't have adequate anything. Immigrants have more rights than the homeless. I'm not saying immigrants are bad people for that. I'm saying that you are bad people for that. Black people are treated better than the homeless. I'm not blaming black people for that. I'm blaming you for that. The fact is that all of these things that are happening to these special interest groups that you actually care about. Oh, well, we don't care about white victims, we only care about black victims. Right? We don't care about male victims, we only care about female victims. You pick and choose who it is that you want to listen to based on your bias. Your decisions are all entirely based on your bias. It's not okay. And my predators in the government, a lot of them have gone to jail and or prison. The people that I told on, the ones who specifically harmed me, many of those government officials, including police officers, sheriff's deputies, county clerks. Yeah, you didn't want to listen to me when they harmed me. So they got to harm a lot of other people. You didn't care when they harmed me. You didn't care when Waylon Lolatai assaulted me. You didn't care when he assaulted 6 other people on camera in 2018. No, the only ones you cared about were the 2 people that were black and in houses. The only 2 people out of all the people that Waylon Lolatai assaulted on camera, the only 2 people that you cared about were the ones that were in houses. They also happened to be the only 2 that were black. They were confused with homeless people. And they were treated the way that homeless people are treated. But magically it's wrong because they're in a house. And you're going to play on their skin color. Oh, this only happened because Zayd Atkinson was black. This only happened because Sammy Leon Lawrence IV was black. And that's a bullshit narrative. Before you go treating every single homeless person like they're a schizophrenic, delusional drug addict who's out to rape your children, keep in mind that 80% of us were forced into homelessness due to abuse. We are fleeing abuse. But with the popularity of the Natalie Bollinger situation, it doesn't matter where I go. Because none of these websites want to tell the truth. None of them care about my side, and they certainly don't care about my evidence because my predators said, mentally ill, mentally ill, mentally ill. Homeless, mentally ill, mentally ill, mentally ill, homeless, 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 mentally ill, homeless. Oh, I'm afraid. Well, you know what? I'm afraid. While Natalie Bollinger pretended that I might do bad shit to her, people actually physically assaulted me over things that literally never happened. Things that Natalie Bollinger never accused me of doing, and yet, even to this day, I have to deal with being assaulted repeatedly over that. Meanwhile, the police, when I've tried to turn them in, the police officers by name that I tried to turn in, used sex offenders like Robert Franklin Mornick to come mess with me. And then they wanted to threaten me with hate crimes because I spoke up about Robert Franklin Mornick threatening me and harassing me and following me and assaulting me and destroying my property. Do the feds give a shit about my property? Yeah, they want it destroyed. Obviously, nobody's going to listen to a hobo, so they're not too worried about it. Usually they come and arrest me about the time somebody is saying that they're going to help me turn it in. And they prevent me from turning in the evidence by arresting me. By lying, Scott DaCosta went around Chapel, Nebraska telling everybody I was schizophrenic and delusional. I had to try to turn him in for that. So he came and assaulted me and arrested me and had me sent to prison. Charged me with misdemeanors because I spoke up openly that I was trying to turn in Leslie Snell and Scott DaCosta and Robert Franklin Mornick and William Barr. William Barr used to be a police officer, but he got fired. Leslie Snell, her husband, was implicated by his own brother in death threats against me, and Leslie Snell later started working for Scott DaCosta, Sheriff of Dual County. I stick up for minorities. I absolutely do, and I'm not going to stop sticking up for minorities. And many of the places I was at, I was if not the only white kid, one of the few white kids there. So, although I had to deal with a lot of racism and beaten up for the color of my skin, I also had friends that were black. So, it wasn't just black kids, all the black kids there beating on me for being white. That's not realistic. You have to be extremely aggravating to get to that point. There's always going to be some kid in there that goes, man, that's fucked up. I'm sorry they did that to you. Hang out with me. Anyway, I'm going to end this video and get back to... They're not helping me. They're wasting my time. I've been out of jail for how long? The services that are supposed to exist to help out disabled people don't exist. All these places are doing is taking advantage of me and taking advantage of your tax dollars. Now, it is okay for you to break the law if you are under duress and if you are coerced into it. If there's a very real threat against you and your family, and if you live in America, there certainly is. And y'all think it's okay. You want to complain that immigrants aren't getting due process. Americans aren't getting due process. They can take away all of your rights just by saying mentally ill, and you are no longer a human being. There are hundreds of mental illnesses in the DSM-5. But here in Oregon, they want to say mental illness. Well, that's very specific. What does the state mean by mental illness? That's right. It means they're trying to insinuate that you're schizophrenic and violent, that you're out to hurt people. And the reality is, I'm trying to turn in the people who are hurting me to a bunch of fucking goons. Officer Waylon Lolatai is a horrible excuse for a human being. And the fact that police officers nationwide have covered for his ass, not even knowing who he is, treating me like a subhuman when crimes are committed against me. To them, I'm not disabled. I'm a homeless junkie to these fucking pigs. Not a human being. When police officers want to murder somebody, they don't go after black people. They go after homeless people. If that homeless person happens to be black, well, it's not like the black community gives a shit when it's a homeless black person. If the police accidentally shoot somebody who's not homeless, well, then that's when you care. If the police murder the homeless, you look the other way. We're victimized by every community. We're victimized by members of every community. And we're victimized by the rules and laws that are set up in those communities. Laws that were originally set up to prevent black people who were forced into homelessness after the Civil War from having any of the rights that they're entitled to as Americans. The anti-homeless laws were far further reaching. Jim Crow laws were taken out of the law books before I was even born. But the anti-homeless laws still exist. And they're not just used to destroy the lives of black people. Any one of you could end up homeless.